6 o'clock hour is upon us, so I'd like to bring the board meeting, December 9th, 2024 to order, 6 p.m. And we need a roll call.
Anastasio?
Here.
Karas? Here. Venturini?
Here.
Bhatia?
Here.
Washburn?
Here.
Doxey?
Here.
DeGroot?
He's here. Next item is pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the next item up is a presentation, and this is in recognition of Jill Furcus, Village Clerk, on obtaining the designation of Wisconsin Certified Municipal Clerk.
We just wanted to take a moment to congratulate Jill on earning the designation of Wisconsin Certified Municipal Clerk. Jill has completed over 100 hours of specialized training in addition to her other education and experience to earn this recognition. Well done, Jill.
Thank you.
Jill, if you'd like to just say a few words on your own behalf of the arduous process that you had to go through to do all that?
Sure. So, yes, it does take a little bit of time. You have to clear a certain number of credits of classwork, and you also have to clear a certain number of credits for experience. The experience points come from attending trainings, volunteering and sitting on committees and things of that nature. So it doesn't happen overnight. It takes at least a couple of years. So it's been a work in progress for me. So I'm very happy to have finally obtained this. So thank you very much.
Well done.
Okay, so let's move on to public comment. Members of the public are welcome to provide comments on any matter. Please fill out a comment form and the president will recognize you. Use the microphone and state your name and address for the public record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. And I just want to distinguish that we're also having a couple of public hearings that'll have its own comment period. So if you're signed up for, agenda item 1, 2, or 3, or however we have that agenda, we'll recognize you at that point in the meeting. But this is just for anything that's really not on the agenda. And we do have Mr. Jerry Franke, if I could recognize him.
Good evening, Jerry Franke, 6342 Berkshire Lane, Mount Pleasant. I just have 3 questions. First of all, I got my annual Christmas card from the village today. Thank you very much. What I don't quite understand is why the village's portion went up 6.7%, which is more than twice any other taxing body. I had to do a lot of fishing to find out things about the budget, and you point out in something that the rate went down. Well, those of us that are familiar with municipal government understand that the rate doesn't mean a whole lot, especially given how fast our assessed values are growing in Mount Pleasant. So I guess I'd like to know how much the levy went up, not the rate. And then secondly, what's driving that increase in the levy? It's a pretty big jump, compared to the county and the school board and others. So that's my first question. If you can't answer it tonight, I would appreciate some response from someone. Secondly, a few years ago, we were talking about a convention or conference center. Is that still being contemplated? Can't answer.
Are you referring to the one that was across the street?
Yes.
It was shelved when COVID came around, and it hasn't been taken off the books. I mean, so it's there.
Okay.
But no action has been taken beyond some initial engineering study.
So these first 2 questions actually lead to my final question, which is now that we have one of the best communicators that I got to work with when I was in the commercial real estate business, I certainly hope that the Village of Mount Pleasant is going to emulate take a look at what the Village of Pleasant Prairie does for their, I don't know if it's bi-monthly or quarterly newsletter. It's unbelievable. But when I get a tax bill that has a 6.7% increase in the village's part, I would expect at least some attempt to explain it away, tell me what the driving force was in that. So I would suggest in the future, you can keep your dog license and your cat license information, stuff like that. But I would like to know what's driving the budget up. Thank you for your service. I appreciate it.
Point well taken, Jerry, and we'll just add that on to Sean's to-do list. I know that,
It's already there.
oh,
It's already on that list.
already there.
Yeah, it's already on that list.
Anybody else, public comment, for anything other than the items that are on the agenda? You want to go now? Fine.
Alex Hintz, 7548 South Sanctuary, Franklin. I am here to just give comment on item F, docket 10. It's the CSM proposed by Ashley Capital. I represent Hintz Real Estate Development Company, the landowner for the parcel in the CSM request, and we are just here to reiterate our request that the CSM be approved without the condition 1. Applicant shall update map to reserve 80 feet of roadway centered on the east line of the northwest quarter section 6. I made the case before Plan Commission that we don't feel that now is the necessary time to add the reservation line. We're making no objection to the concept per se. We are just stating that we're not proposing a development at this time, and if at the time that we do propose a development on this parcel, we will need to go see staff, we will need to go see Plan Commission, and we feel that that would be the appropriate time to impose a reservation, not at this time, where the applicant, Ashley Capital, is simply proposing a CSM.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's the first public Giddings, yeah,
Okay.
so we'll call that then.
Okay. Yeah, so the rest of you will call when we get to those points of need. Anybody else wishing to speak on the record for anything? No? Okay, then we'll close public comment and we'll move on to the consent agenda. And based what we've been hearing, I'd like to take item 10 off of the consent agenda, and we'll take that up separately. But if the maker of the motion would like to motion consent agenda items through 9.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the items 1 to 9 on the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
So I hear a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that motion carries. So let's move on to item number 10, which is approval of the 3047 State Highway 41 Certified Survey Map, CSM 24-6. So there seems to be some heartburn by the landowner on making a reservation on the land in order to facilitate another deal on an adjacent piece of land. And they're just, they're wondering why they have to encumber an adjoining property in order to make this other deal with Ashley work. As far as I know from Ashley Capital, it's no skin off their nose either way, whether that reservation is in or not. But the argument that I'm hearing is the landowner doesn't mind if and when they do that adjacent parcel, and when they get involved with a deal on that, to put the reservation in at that point. Sam, do you have any other thoughts on this? because I know that this was vetted out at the, at Plan Commission.
Yeah, so the staff originally put that comment in because when we receive a certified survey map, we have to evaluate it against, all the ordinances. This application did not meet the block length requirement. Essentially, when someone comes in with the CSM to create lots, whether they're for public street dedication or otherwise, we review it against those subdivision regulations, and the total parcel had block lengths longer than 1,200 feet. The Plan Commission, upon deliberation, agreed to remove east-west reservation of roads and push that to a later date. But to paraphrase their conversation, they thought the north-south reservation was important enough that it should bind the map and the future property owner, mainly because that would be the full north extension of Carrington Boulevard as it moves north to south beyond its current, or south to north beyond its current terminus towards the Village of Caledonia municipal line. And they felt that was an important enough collector street that they wanted to see it on the map now, as opposed to deferring it later on. So just due to the importance of the roadway and that connection, they felt it was important. So they recommended removing all the conditions except one, the cleanup, which we didn't mention tonight, and then two, the future reservation of just Carrington Boulevard north-south.
Any thoughts from the commissioners?
So, Mr. President, I have a question for the developer. So,
Then let's get the developer mic'd up.
okay.
Alex, do you wanna head back up to the podium?
Hi,
And to
Alex.
be clear, I'm the landowner,
Okay.
although the developer is present as well.
Right. And I am on the Plan Commission, so I remember meeting with you and hearing your situation. And I was one of the ones that was relatively adamant about keeping the north-south road reservation in there. So what I'm hearing from you tonight that I don't remember hearing at Plan Commission, so your project is on the Hintz property, and I understand the purpose of the CSM is really to create the roadway running east and west at the north side. So the developer owns the abutting property as well? Is that what I'm understanding? Or what does the abutting property have to do with this?
The developer is under contract to purchase the abutting property located in Caledonia. And quite
The abutting
frankly,
property to the north?
yeah, the property to the north in Caledonia. So as part of that agreement, we are agreeing to facilitate the 2 acres required in Mount Pleasant. And it's causing some, not that this is necessarily the village's problem, but it's causing some heartburn between seller and buyer, as we are contractually obligated to provide that 2 acres or so in Mount Pleasant. However, there's nothing that says we have to encumber our property to do so. So it kind of creates a point of conflict for us, if you will.
Between you and the property owner in Caledonia? I guess I'm confused why
We are,
that would make
we
a
are the
difference
property owner in Caledonia.
as well.
They
Yes,
own both,
correct.
they own both parcels.
Right,
Correct.
I understand that, so I don't understand what the conflict would be. I guess, and I don't need to
Sure.
argue with you about it, certainly, Mr. Hintz, I appreciate your being here tonight to discuss it. In my mind, a road reservation is a reservation. It is not a platted roadway, and it can be removed. And if there is an offer to purchase to the property to the east of this, which is what I'm hearing, you're talking about the property to the north. The road reservation is on the north, south, west, east side of the property, right, Sam?
No, it runs through the middle of the property.
It runs through the middle of the Mount Pleasant property,
Correct.
subject to the CSM. We also own the property to the north of it, just across the municipal boundary, and that's the property that Ashley Capital is under contract to purchase. As part of that deal, they're planning to put a roadway running east-west, and in order to facilitate that, we agreed to donate 2 or so acres of our Mount Pleasant holdings, which is just ancillary. We just happen to be the owner of that property, which I think is, part of our, I guess, argument, if you will, too. We just happen to own the property in Mount Pleasant. It could be a third party to which Ashley would have to go out and try to find a way to purchase and secure the rights to do that. And I don't think that third party would like a road reservation probably also. Does that clear up the context.
Kind of, but I want to make sure I understand what I may be misinformed, so that's important. In other words, I thought that the road reservation we wanted to leave on was a north-south reservation that ran on the edge of the property, north and south. It's through the middle.
Yeah, it's about 2/3 of the way through the property from west to east. It aligns directly with this quarter section line, because the property is 120 acres, so it's pretty big. It actually encompasses, multiple subsections. So that's why it cuts through the middle of the property, is because the property is so large, consolidated.
So you're not worried about the extension of Carrington in the future being delineated somehow on this? It sounds like you're willing to, that's not a concern for you.
No, it is. That's why we put the comment on there for the road reservation, is we as staff thought, A, for block length, and B, for that village collector street to ultimately go through and go into the village of Caledonia. That's why we included it as staff, and that, to my recollection, was the same conversation at the Plan Commission.
I mean, I think Carrington Boulevard's a very important roadway, and I think where it ends up is all subject to how this all lays out, really. It can move east or west. How is it gonna run up through the wetlands and everything then?
It wouldn't. Generally, this location doesn't impact wetlands entirely. If it did, there are specific rules in how, we can impact wetlands with public streets and things like that through WDNR. But, yeah, in general, it doesn't really impact those things. That's why the village staff recommended it as a reservation as opposed to a formal dedication, was we acknowledge that it might move a couple feet east-west upon final engineering and connecting it in. So that's why we put it in as just a reservation and not a dedication.
Yeah, I prefer to support staff in that regard, and, I recognize, I don't know that a north-south connection street should be problematic in your relationship with your partners and so forth, because that's a planning exercise. We have to have that connectivity. And I think that's always something right now to get north into Caledonia. There's only 2 streets, H and V. So Carrington Boulevard is an important street. And in my mind, a reservation is just that. It's a reservation, and it's something that can be worked with in terms of its exact location based on site planning. So it remains somewhat flexible. You're not specifically planting it on here anywhere.
We recommend it's just 80 feet centered on the east line of the section line. So, yeah, we do recommend a specific location for it to appear on the map, just so the surveyor has a specific place to draw it. But a reservation, yeah, again, is not a dedication, so once that was formally dedicated in the future, once the road is engineered and the property is developed, that dedication would replace the reservation at that time, and it could shift one way or another. So to your point, Trustee Washburn, it really is a planning exercise. It's something to get it on title, on a map for the long run, and that's why we recommended it.
Well, without knowing, exactly where the road is gonna come through, is it going to end up dead ending on the new east-west road, or does Caledonia have plans to extend that beyond to the north?
That I cannot answer.
I can, Mr. President. Caledonia's site plans with Ashley Capital show that continuing further north. That's why we chose that location, is we would mirror it. And if, again, when Caledonia does build out those roadways and the east-west roadways, if that does shift a little bit when Ashley builds out that site, again, we can, modify the reservation or, take it over with a dedication at that time. So I don't think 1 foot one way or another should really impact it. This is exactly halfway between V and the frontage road. So from a location standpoint, the spacing is pretty perfect from a planning and circulation perspective.
And just to be clear again for public record, our argument is not about Carrington Boulevard or the fact that it's very clearly documented at this point that it's something Mount Pleasant is going to require at a time when either us or Ashley or a different third-party developer comes forward with a development proposal. We're just reiterating that we're not making a development proposal at this time, so we don't wish to encumber the land now. We're not making any comment on, I mean, staff is very adamant that that road reservation will be there at one point, and the land is currently ag. It will need to go through staff and plan commission, and we feel that that is the time for the reservation. That's our position.
Mr. President, again, as trustee Washburn has recaptured the discussion at the planning commission, I was also at the planning commission, and yes, we voted to only have the reservation on the east-west, but after hearing the owner's comments, since it's not a development proposal, I personally don't see any problem, because when that proposal comes, then it can be addressed at that time. But by having that in the condition, we're tying their hands.
Well, I think it's an encumbrance that they don't need, and when that next development comes, the plan commission and staff will always get another kick at the cat.
Yep.
So, you know, I don't think it needs to be there either.
Okay. My understanding and my recollection of the discussion at the planning commission, I don't have them, is that I tend to agree that it can be handled at that time when the development proposal comes. It should not be binding at this point in time.
At the plan commission, what we did relieve them of was the east-west connectivity.
Yes,
This
correct.
is the north-south
This is
connectivity,
north-south.
which is what we did state in our approval at plan commission should be left in, which
Correct.
is what he's asking to take out now.
Yes.
So, and I am going to support staff, because when they do come back with a site plan, having those connection points, the road can change when it gets dedicated simply through that process. So when they come back with a site plan, I'm confident that the road reservation doesn't stop them from planning around it when they are actually doing their site plan. The road reservation just tells them that they must connect on the north side and the south side. And if the reservation is straight right now, but their road plan wiggles around when they dedicate that road, as long as they have that north-south connectivity, that'll relieve that reservation. So I think it's an important reservation to have on record for the future.
I guess.
And I don't know that we need to belabor this anymore. We have to, there will be a vote on it, and we can vote on it. But I believe as a future planning tool, I agree with Sam that it should be addressed on the property so that it's of record.
Well, again,
So, Ron, would you like to make a motion regarding the CSM, but taking out that first item?
yes. I'd like to make a motion to approve this 3047 USH 41 CSM-24-6, removing that item, that condition number 1, to remove that reservation from
Mhm.
north to south.
Condition 1.
And again, my argument is, I tend to agree with the owner that can be handled at that time when the development plan comes.
Yes, thank you.
So there's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
So I hear a motion and a second. Any further discussion regarding CSM 24-6?
Mr. President?
Yeah.
I'd like to ask the developer, I'm still not clear as to why this is an encumbrance to your deals that you've got.
Sure. Owner, but
Sorry.
maybe I shouldn't have brought that up. I guess what I was just trying to say is, as we have an agreement on our Caledonia piece to sell to the developer, The development that they are proposing includes an east-west road along the municipal border. So we knew that was going to be the case, and in our contract agreement for the Caledonia piece, we agreed to donate 2 pieces of our separate property that just happens to be located in Mount Pleasant. In order to get that 2 acres separate from the 120 that it currently is today, we need a CSM. The contract says that we need to provide them with 2 acres. It doesn't say that we need to encumber ourselves in any way to do that. So it just puts us in a position of having to potentially accept a reservation only as a condition to fulfill an obligation to give them 2 acres. We didn't agree to any sort of encumbrances in our contract. So maybe that was too much context that I didn't need to include, but I hope that kind of explains it.
So why are you donating the 2 acres?
Part of the contract
Oh,
with the
just to some of the
buyer.
negotiations?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
The new east-west road is right on the municipal boundary.
Okay.
So half of it presumably is coming from the land that they own in Caledonia, and the other half is coming from the Mount Pleasant land. And they're donating that for the purpose of the road.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
So I think as a follow-up, Denise, I think that's a really, I'm glad you asked him for that clarification, because it is a little confusing. Because as he said, this is really all to put his Caledonia deal together. And I think the reason that I still, in spite of that explanation, if you're coming to Mount Pleasant to divide property in Mount Pleasant for whatever purpose it is, whether you're gonna build a house or put up a garage or build a subdivision, we have codes and ordinances that we ask our planners to heavily scrutinize, to follow, and to make recommendations back to us. So unfortunately, I don't agree that your property's being encumbered, because we've made it clear that north-south street's gonna go somewhere very close to the proximity. That's just forward information for you and your family. I know you've had a rough road to hoe with this, but I don't feel we're encumbering you, and I don't think that the developer that wants to buy the north property, that's really not relevant to his situation, as far as I can see. So I'm still gonna support keeping the reservation in the CSM, because they've come to us to divide a parcel in Mount Pleasant. I understand it's to create an east-west roadway, and this is a very, very big deal in Caledonia. I appreciate that. It's gonna be a wonderful development, but we have to protect our community. That's why we're here. So I'm going to stay in favor of keeping the road reservation.
Okay, interesting conversation. Any other thoughts? Okay, so since we seem to have a divided board on this, we'll roll call this.
Could
So
I have her repeat the motion?
Sure.
The motion was to approve 3047 US Highway 41 CSM 24-6, removing condition number 1.
That's the motion.
And that condition, just to verify, is the condition of the road reservation running north and south.
North and south, yeah.
Everyone understand the motion? So a yes vote means approve the CSM without the road reservation,
Without the north-south road
Correct.
reservation.
the one that we've been discussing.
Anastasio?
Aye.
Karas?
Nay.
Venturini?
Aye.
Bhatia?
Aye.
Washburn?
Nay?
Doxey?
Nay.
DeGroot?
Aye. Motion carries. Was that
Thank you
word-
for your
word three?
consideration.
So let's move on to community development. This is ordinance 22-2024, which is 8626 Giddings Road, zoning map amendment, ZMA 24-11. Mr. Schultz.
Mr. President, trustees, the applicant applied to amend a portion of the property from AG2, which is general agriculture, to RL1, which is low-density residential. This application coordinates with the settlement at Hoods Creek Addition 5 subdivision plat, FSP 24-4, which you all just approved on the consent agenda. The application follows the land use element of the multi-jurisdictional comp plan for Racine County. Neither the master bicycle plan nor the park and open space plan contain any recommendations for the subject area. The Plan Commission recommended the approval of this project with the one condition in the endnotes, which is the revision shall only occur after the property owner records the settlement at Hoods Creek Addition 5 subdivision plat at the Racine County Register of Deeds. With that, the Plan Commission recommends that the village board moves to approve ordinance 22, 2024.
So, did the, was the petitioner wanting to say anything, or? No from the petitioner? Okay. So, okay, this is where we get to open up the public hearing part of it. So, not only for this one, but for the other couple of public hearings I will be having, if you wish to speak, fill out a public hearing form, which is on a table near the entrance. Once recognized, speakers should come to the podium and identify themselves with their name and address. Please speak clearly into the microphone. Speakers must direct all discussions towards the board. I will not allow interchange between members of the audience and the petitioner. We request that you not interfere with nor interject comments while another person has the floor. This is to ensure a respectful and orderly process. Please keep all comments on the particular item before the board and at the most 5 minutes. And finally, to ensure a focused and productive hearing, please turn off or mute all electronic devices. So I don't have anybody signed up for this item number 1. Oh, do we? Okay. Kevin? Calvin?
Are you 8512 Gettings Road? Yep.
Yeah, if you'd like to just come up and introduce yourself and your address for the record.
Good evening, my name is Kelvin Weatherspoon, reside at 8512 Giddings Road. I'm sorry for being so late in the progress of this program here, but I received a notification that came late. Someone did tell me that they were developing, as I did see, the surrounding properties the properties that surround my small part of land, and I was concerned about that. My concern is, I respect what the board does, and I respect what the developers have done. I've been living there for about 30 years, and it has really progressed around me. My concern was, in developing the land there, how the storm water will be released. Not so much in the front of these properties that abut mine, but in the rear, because I have wetland right there, and I'd hate for, all that water to build up and cause a lake. I mean, I guess I just wanted to know, what is the plan for that? How will they, develop that where it's, pretty conducive for all of us?
Well, Kelvin, that's a question that we get a lot when it comes to taking raw land and turning it into a development. And I think that Sam can probably address those issues, briefly, in terms of this step is just, one of the very first pieces of it. There's a whole raft of things that come into play afterwards, but Sam is better spoken at that than I am.
Yeah, that's correct. So the subdivision plat does maintain the majority of the wetlands that are close to Giddings Road, so closer to your property in the front there. Most of those wetlands will stay undeveloped, so that will provide some buffer. Then the developer is also required to add stormwater ponds for both water quality and water detention, so they're not pushing additional water onto neighboring properties. So they're preserving some land and adding additional stormwater ponds.
So will we have a chance to see the final plans before things begin to roll? Because as I understand now, it seems like it's already being developed. I mean, I see the trucks out there, I see the silk border and everything, so I really don't know where everything stands as it is today.
Yeah, you can find the plans online as part of this packet, or reach out to me directly, and I can give you my contact information.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak on this first item, Giddings Road? Not hearing from anybody, we can close the public comment part of that, and we can move on to a motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve ordinance 2020, ordinance 22-2024 for 8626 Giddings Road zoning map amendment ZMA-24-11, subject to the recommended conditions.
Second?
So I hear a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board?
Again, we discussed at the planning commission, and this is for a rezoning only from the AG2 to RL1. And like as Sam said, then the developers plat, for the subdivision will address all those concerns by the residents. But other than that, this item on the agenda is to form like the rezoning. And we have to have that for the developer to proceed with the building the, I think it's a phase, 5 of the development? I think, Sam, yeah.
So this is all the same development that was getting jammed up by the water connection?
Yep.
Mr. Badke solved a huge problem for himself, so, and it was, ultimately, the village as a whole will benefit, because that was an expensive water main to get to that, serve that part of the village, so.
Yeah.
Took a long time and a lot of phone calls and a lot of working with people in the neighborhood, so I would think, sir, that, I don't know if the gentleman, did he leave?
He left.
Oh, that he'll work well, Jeff will work well with the neighbor that just came up and was concerned about stormwater. More than happy to talk about it, but yep, that's the one.
It's nice to see some closure on these things. Anybody else?
I live on Giddings, just a few doors down from Kelvin. And from what I've seen so far of Hood's Creek, now, a lot of it's been there since before we moved in, but the development is very nice. So I think seeing that come round out and come to an end on the other end of Giddings, or further down, will be nice as well, just to see that finished.
Ultimately, there'll be some nice connectivity that'll take some of the heat off the one entrance that they have
Yep.
and so forth. Over time, this phase won't complete that connection, but it's getting close.
Mr. President, if I may add, I live in that Hoods Creek, probably in the phase 1, and at the planning commission, many of our neighbors came and they are aware of that. So like trustee Doxy said, it's a continuation of the nice development, and it would be probably to the same architect and same standard that we have from phase 1 to 4. So it'll be a nice extension, except that it's coming out from the other side of the Giddings Road. Other than that, it'll be the same development, and our homeowners and the neighbors who came here or who are watching out there, I talked to a couple of them, and I haven't heard any concern. It shouldn't be, yeah.
Okay. So in the matter of ZMA 24-11, ordinance 22-2024, roll call.
Anastasio?
Aye.
Karas?
Aye.
Venturini?
Aye.
Bhatia?
Aye.
Washburn?
Aye.
Doxy?
Aye.
DeGroot?
Aye, motion carries. So let's move on to the second item here, ordinance 23-2024, which is County V zoning map amendments, ZMA 24-10. Back to Mr. Schultz.
The applicant applied with permission from the owner to amend the zoning map for the property from AG2, which is general agriculture, to RH1, high-density residential, to accommodate a multi-unit building development. The application follows the residential recommendation of the land use element of the comp plan. Village does not have an adopted plan for local planning area 1. The park and open space plan identifies proposed site 11, which is a neighborhood park to the southwest of this property. The proposed acquisition is 10 acres, and the proposed facility development includes 2 basketball goals, which is a full court, a sandlot softball diamond, a playground, a playfield, and general development. The applicant proposed dedicating the southern portion of this parcel for a portion of that park. The master bike plan does not contain any recommendations for the property. However, it does recommend a bicycle facility near, along Spring Street and the unnamed kind of branch of the Hoods Creek just to the east side of County Trunk Highway V. The fiscal impact analysis we based on the proposed development. We would do a detailed one upon receiving a final site plan, but the ratios are all positive. This does not account for any required intersection improvements to County Trunk Highway V and C, which are likely. Racine County would determine the required intersection improvements upon reviewing a traffic impact analysis, which the applicant must submit with a site plan before they could apply for any building permits. The property has been on the market with a sign advertising it for multifamily residential development since about 2020. The property lies adjacent to tax incremental district number 7, which contains multiple proposed multi-unit building projects. The village staff nor the Plan Commission recommended any conditions for approval, and the Plan Commission recommends that the village board moves to approve ordinance 23, 2024.
Okay, so from here we can get to the public hearing part of that. So same rules apply, 5 minutes max. We've got a few people signed up on this one. Jim Bergman?
Hello, I'm Jim and my wife Kim Bergman. We reside at 182 County Road V, 53177, Mount Pleasant. Our property is located east of the rezoning request. Little history. We purchased property from Gail and Evie Ives 5 years ago to build our retirement home. We love being out in the country, surrounded by farmland with great privacy, beautiful sunsets, and close to Racine Bible Church, and that's the church I attend. We have a couple representatives tonight from our church as well. Over the years, we've have become close to the Ives and totally understand their decision to sell their farmland. We have not seen any proposed development plans as of today, and we do not know how this development will impact our property and our privacy concerns. For the record, we would like to request a meeting with the developer and discuss. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Can I recognize, is it Megan Hoffman?
Hi there, I'm Megan Hoffman. I'm Jim's neighbor. My husband Alex is here as well. We reside at 118 County Road V, so we are pretty much directly impacted by this development here too. We just bought our house in July of this year, so we've really loved moving to Mount Pleasant, have had a wonderful time in this community so far, and thank you all for your time and consideration in regarding this development here today. We did see some plans today, and previous to our purchasing of this property, we spoke with Robin from the village, who may be over there, I'm not exactly sure. He was fantastic. We had a number of conversations on the phone, also via email, because I was a little nervous about the development, and it was a big purchase for us. And us coming from South Milwaukee, living in a little city lot, we wanted something bigger and something that we would love for many, many years to come. So I was a little disappointed because when I talked with Robin, there was a proposed retention pond behind our home, and now I'm seeing the new plans that have some parking lots and things like that directly around our property boundary, which obviously affects our ability for privacy, but also any vehicle use, headlights coming into our backyards, things like that too. So again, we just really love this area, all the way from south of our house, all the way north through County Road V. It's all single-family homes, beautifully maintained, large yards, trees, things like that, barns. We're lucky enough to have a beautiful old barn that we hope to restore a little bit as well. So we understand that development has to happen. We are not against development by any means, especially in southeastern Wisconsin. I used to hold a real estate license, so I kind of know how all of this goes. And I do know that it's important to make sure that there is housing available for our community. I do want to make sure that we speak our piece and just say that we would love to see any kind of development behind us. However, a high-density development with a parking lot kind of directly in our backyard is not necessarily our first thing that we were hoping to see today. So I just hope that as we're going through this, I love Jim's option here of maybe talking with a developer and seeing what the plans actually are. We just saw the plans here today too. I love the idea of having some basketball hoops, courts, things like that. We love having the church in our backyard. So we're, again, just not against people, we're not against development, anything of that nature, but what we're just really concerned about is preserving our neighborhood's culture, having that rural feel to it. It just seems a little bit out of place to have a high-density residential area right there when it's not on a really main road. And our other concern was also brought up is the traffic impact on Spring, but also on County Road V. And also, obviously, if those two roads were to be expanded, that would directly impact us, but also the costs that would come along with that, and if that really makes sense for this area of the county. So I just hope that as we move through this process, that all of you, again, I respect you all so much. Thank you for letting us come here tonight. It's my first time participating in something like this, so I appreciate you guys offering us to come here today and speak our minds on the matter, and just ask that you consider it as if it was your backyard, your neighbors' backyards, how your community would feel about this development, the high-density development being on this road in this intersection, and if it makes the most sense for the county. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I hear from Greg Long?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Greg Long, 300 County Road V in Mount Pleasant. I have property where the west side of my property is directly against the farm field that is looking to be rezoned. And my concerns are also with the high density. It seems out of place. I'm concerned about many factors that would happen if something would go in. Have you guys considered, single family housing, which seems it would fit better in? In addition, I'm worried about, light pollution. If there's gonna be a parking lot with high density, am I gonna have that? There's gonna be a lot more traffic. There's gonna be possible a lot more noise pollution. In addition, have you considered about having any types requiring the developer, should you choose to go with high density, are they gonna be any type of barrier to stop, since you're gonna have so many people, everything, pets, kids, people, adults, anyone can just start wandering around? Are they gonna be wandering into my yard? Have you considered asking them to add a berm, a fence line, anything like that to create separation so that I don't have that problems of things going in and out of my property, people messing with my pets? I have a 9-year-old son. So those are my big concerns. Oh, and my final thing is I haven't seen any development. Perhaps I haven't seen any memos or meeting notices yet. I don't follow the board closely, but this notification I got about the rezoning was the first thing I noticed. So some of the plans sound nice, but they also have a giant multifamily thing, and I'm hoping the board isn't just taking the first opportunity they get with high density. I completely understand the development. The whole point of the water was to bring development along the I-94 corridor. So I've always known development's gonna happen, and I'm not gonna discourage it. It's just my biggest concern is you're taking the first opportunity to develop it instead of planning for other factors, especially the people who are gonna be directly affected by this. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam, we're hearing some of the same kind of themes. People are concerned. Are we being thoughtful here? What protections are there for the adjoining neighbors? Can you say a few words on that?
So from a site planning perspective, we're not at the site plan portion yet. So I think there is opportunity for the neighbors to talk to the developers, speak your piece, and I'll let the potential developer and the neighbors kind of work out their individual concerns. But from a broad standpoint, the village's zoning ordinances require full cutoff lights. So from a light pollution standpoint, they can't, go into the neighbor's yard. There's limitations at the lot lines and the individual fixtures, both color, temperature, and location. From a landscaping and screening standpoint, particularly in relation to parking areas, there are requirements when you're up against a residential property. And there are various ways the zoning code allows a developer to screen those, essentially various mixture of walls, fences, and pure landscaping, depending on how much space there is between the parking lot and the adjacent property. So, we address most of those site planning concerns through our normal zoning ordinances, and we would review any site plan against those ordinances. From a general development standpoint related to the high density, from the village's staff perspective, and some of the conversation that happened at the Plan Commission was, this is the corner of two county trunk highways, which are two collector streets in the village. So regardless of this individual site, traffic is likely going to increase in the long run as the village, develops in these areas. The county's made it known, and it shows up on sewer pack reports that Spring Street could eventually be upgraded to a 4-lane road in the long run. That's in the 2050 plan. So, regardless of how you vote tonight, I think this is a corner that supports high density due to the, large amount of traffic that's going out there. The adjacent multifamily developments, this area will start to densify. It's very close to employers and increasing industrial, commercial, and institutional development with the hospital there. So trying to locate homes near those job centers is important for us. So due to all those factors, we think this is a site that works well for high density. I completely respect and empathize with the current landowners out there, but brutally honest, the village those lots don't meet our current subdivision code, nor do I think the county would allow those to exist anymore. So they kind of got their lots created under older rules a long time ago. The Bergmans were the last ones that were created. Good, but I'm happy they enjoy their properties, but I don't see that any other single-family lots would be allowed out there with some pretty massive consolidation of parcels out there. Just the connectivity and inner roads and stuff wouldn't work without probably removing the church and reconfiguring a good portion of that area. So I think it makes sense for more multifamily product that is a little bit more concentrated and consolidated in terms of its site access.
Thank you. So regarding this second item, I haven't closed public comment on that yet. Is there anybody that wanted to speak to that hasn't signed up? If so, I need you to speak and get you signed up. Not hearing from anybody, we can then close public comment, and then we'll move to the motion.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve ordinance 23-2024 for 0 County Highway V zoning map amendment ZMA-24-10 as presented.
Second.
So I hear a motion and a second. Any thoughts from the board?
Mr. President, yes, I'd like to add in a couple of comments, and obviously the residents, we listen to your comment, but this was presented in details at the Planning Commission, and tonight is only on the agenda to rezone it so that the developer can proceed with the proposed development. Because right now it's a, AG2 Sam, something like that? Yeah. So anyway, what I'm surprised is at the Planning Commission and what the developer had presented, that they had already talked to a couple of neighbors. Obviously, you guys were not included in the list. I'm looking at the list and I'm kind of surprised about that. But I wish, the developers should have and should speak to all the adjoining neighbors. But the plan, what they presented to us at the Planning Commission is it's not like a low end, it's high density, but it's a high standard or high end. So I won't be too concerned about like having a, I don't know, I'm being careful of the word, kind of average condos. These are going to be the high-end development. It's not a single family, but it's going to be not a middle of the road or low end or something like that. I don't know if that helps you, but other than that, I remember from the plan, and they did present to us that next to your properties on the south side of the county highway V, the plan will include, some kind of a barriers or something that, from their journey home. So again, when they come to the planning commission and the village board for the detailed site plan, that's the time to look at those, your privacy or the barriers or something like that. But right now, it's only for the zoning. I'm sorry?
Sam?
You can sign up for village notifications on the village website, but I'll stick around after these couple items are done on the community development portion, and I can talk to you out in the hall and give you my contact info and stuff.
Mr. President?
Yeah, go
Are you
ahead.
done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that kind of the common theme that I heard tonight, excuse me, is that everybody understands that development is going to be necessary, and obviously this area is going to be an area that's going to need some development. And also from what I understand, as Sam mentioned, the size of this lot and where it's situated, or this property I should say, is best for a high density. And it's getting more and more difficult for developers to come in and do single home residential. And there's a need for this type of development. So I keep on hearing that everybody understands that, and I know it's hard to accept sometimes when you've bought your dream home in a rural area, but it is close to that I-94 corridor. It is on two highways, and so it's sort of obvious it's going to be some development of some sort there. With that said, I think that our staff here and the trustees and the village board have done a really good job of making sure that the development that we do accept in Mount Pleasant is up to our standards. And like Ram said, this seems like a development that's going to be, hopefully acceptable to what your expectations are. But there's a process that has to happen, and it's going to come before us again in the Planning Commission. So I want you to have confidence that we will look at it, and we will look at it in a way that, what if this was our backyard? We do look deep into these things, and we take your thoughts and your concerns into consideration.
It's hard to look at something that's very preliminary and not have 100 questions about, well, what does this mean for me and my neighbors and whatnot. But, keep in mind, the landowner has property that he wants to sell. A developer is interested in it, thinking that he can put something in place that fits into the community and he can make a couple of bucks at it, and because otherwise things don't get developed. So having said that, he is going to, the developer is going to want to, see that he can get the zoning that he needs in order to build what he wants. Otherwise, there's no point of him buying the land. So he makes his offer subject to him getting the zoning that he needs. If the zoning is denied, then he's not going to build. If the zoning is approved, then that gets him into the next steps, of which we heard at the previous public hearing. There's 100 things that have to get gone through, and drainage plans, road plans, berms, green space, lighting, and some of the things that Mr. Schultz mentioned. But this is the zoning is the very first part of it, and until that is done, nothing else can happen. the developer isn't gonna go any farther unless he knows that, he can get the zoning that he needs in order to do what he wants to do. So, I guess what the board is asking is that you know, take a collective deep breath and, let us work through the process. Go ahead.
Okay, it wasn't long ago that here, we actually said no to a developer in changing the zoning at a much lower level for property that was adjacent to a lot of single-family homes. People who had had that property for going back 30, 40 years. We wanted to see that development come in with something that was more, it would work better with those homes. And here we're gonna go to high density right next to a group of people who have single-family homes that bought these homes to be out in the country and away from everybody. And just because it's fewer people that are affected by throwing in this high density, these apartments here, doesn't mean that we should do it. We still have to think of those people. So I don't think this is a good idea. I don't mind the development myself. Heck, I just voted for a development to get finished behind my house, but that's because they're single-family homes, and it's conducive to the neighborhood. And I don't think this neighborhood, this is that conducive to it. So I really don't think this is something, development is great, but I think it should be something that is more conducive to the neighborhood and what's there already. They're already gonna do a lower density, if I remember, on the other side of the church, but a large development. And so how come we can't do something that's more conducive to this neighborhood in this area? I mean, Megan even mentioned that. She doesn't mind the development, just do the right development. And I think it starts with choosing the right zoning. That's all I got.
Well, I'm gonna say the same. I really looked at it, and it's funny because I looked at the farm that you guys purchased, and thought, wow, that's a really nice place. It's gonna have a nice big open area in the back, and not that it still can't, and it's still gonna be nice, and you know, like you agreed, but I have to state the same, that I feel that a high density in that small area there, when you are looking at a much larger high density area on the other side, that there could be something better fit for that area. I understand, and I've heard that area has been a hard sell as far as that corner unit goes, but again, I look at it, and maybe just because we're seeing a picture of what they're showing with all of the buildings and stuff, is there a different structure and way that they could present it that it would meet more of a nicer atmosphere to the back of the houses and area? Yeah, but you know, I agree. I really think that this should be revisited as not a high density area.
Mr. President?
Yeah.
Sam, what are the other options then as far as rezoning? So we have the high density, we have the residential, and forgive me, I don't have many notes.
Oral one, like a single family.
Yeah, besides single family, this is the next option, right?
There's a moderate density option as well. However, this site, due to its current shape, and the likely improvements needed at the intersection, plus including stormwater on the property, I think moderate density is a tougher sell than some of the properties to the west, which the trustees mentioned, are a little bit more regular in shape and have a bit more open area. So it's actually, you know, easier to do that moderate density over there because there's more space to work with. Here, to make a project work and fit it in, I think high density makes sense. You know, it's the corner of 2 county trunk highways. So if not here, I guess this village staff would wonder where in the village. You're always going to have some neighbors. There's no perfect site. More often than not, that's completely neighborless. So we do our best through the zoning code to try to take into consideration things like light pollution and noise and all that to make it as best as we can. But this has been planned for residential development since I've worked at the village. And, you know, there's business park directly, you know, less than 1,000 feet away from some of these areas. So even if you deny this, there could be a large industrial building fewer than 1,000 feet away from them, and they can probably see from some of their backyards as well that's planned, that zoning is already locked. So, you know, this is part of the TID 7 project plan, this whole area densifying. That's why we're putting in that sewer and water in V. Or we put it in V, and it is now extending west in C is to serve this kind of more intense residential development. So I'm certainly willing to work with the neighbors, and I assume the developer is as well, but we have a high density district for a reason, and the village staff believe this is an appropriate place to apply it.
You know, it's not lost on me that the Carrington Avenue extension will alleviate some of the back traffic.
I have no comment to that, Mr. President.
Well, we're okay with Carrington Avenue out to Spring Street. It's when you get beyond that where the issue was.
Okay. Mr. President, if I might make a comment, you know, living on County Line Road as I do, and having had, in the corner of County Line Road and Highway 31, if you drive on Highway 31 at any time in your lives, that roadway used to be our farm field. So when that roadway came in, it cut our farm completely in half and really changed the way we were able to live in a rural community. I liken this project to the project that's currently being built. Even the site plan, the way it's laid out now, reminds me of the Seasons at Highway 31 and Brown Road. Same kind of a large complex with a big stormwater detention mandate because of its location and grades, and that particular project's right on the Pike River. And that's a very highly dense development, as is the project that Bear Development is doing just south of the Seasons. And you know, those projects were put in those locations, and we found those to be good locations for those projects for the very reasons that Sam is mentioning, and that is the connectivity of the county trunk highways. That's where you want your traffic to go. The corner of KR and 31 that still is in the hayfield, that's a 20-acre parcel. So if that gives you a sense of perspective of this being a 20-acre parcel, that one is square. That one is perfectly square. This one is obviously oddly shaped and has some issues regarding that. Number two, their accesses to this property are going to be highly restricted by Racine County or the Department of Transportation. The locations are going to be set in stone. Number three, although and again, I'm sympathetic to everybody that lives out in the county like this, that thinks they live out in the county. What I recognize also is that Leo Living, a very, a multifamily development, is slated to go just on the other side of the church. That's a big multifamily development that's coming. Fiduciary is on the north side of Spring Street. We haven't seen that project yet, but we've been told by staff and the community that it's out there. Another large multifamily project, very dense. The water running down Spring Street now, west of Highway V, has opened up a corridor for development. We ran that water for various purposes, but it was run so that Leo Living would have water, and it was run so that Fiduciary would have water and educators would have water. So it was run that way, for the benefit of the ability for those areas to develop. And as much as I would love to see a single family or a residential development come into some of these areas, being a developer myself, I understand the cost of it. And so the density drives it. And that is a fact of life of the world we live in today. The cost is just so astronomical. I would really like to see this developer meet with more of the neighbors. I think at the Plan Commission, we did have some neighbors in. Not the neighbors that are here today, but they did talk to some of the neighbors. And because they came to the Plan Commission. So I can't state who they were. I don't have those minutes or those notes in front of me. The other thing is that, the other thing that I think is interesting about this is some of the neighbors are gonna have a park behind them. You know, it appears from this that we have 2 or 3 properties that are immediately butting the area where the buildings are gonna be and the parking lots and so forth. So some of the neighbors along Highway V are actually gonna be afforded privacy permanently with the dedication of the park space on this plat. So in view of Sam's comments, in view of the degree of difficulty, in view of the fact that this is located in a section of our community where, from a long-range planning standpoint, we have put our more dense housing in order to keep it together and kind of so that it doesn't stay in the middle of a single-family development that Andrew just alluded to, the project that was before us previously. I would like to see them meet with the neighbors, but I think they've done a good job of putting as much of the stormwater, making it a feature as opposed to, you know, just putting ponds anywhere. Their further stormwater studies may show that some of those ponds have to move. You know, they might not be in the right location. So I would support the zoning, knowing that the site plan as we see it today is not probably the one they're gonna build. And it has a long way to go in terms of potential meetings, public hearings, and the ability for you all to stay with the development as it moves along. That's all I have.
Okay. So, on the matter before us, ordinance 23-2024, ZMA 24-10. Time for a vote. Roll call.
Anastasio,
Aye.
Karas,
Nay.
Venturini,
Aye.
Bhatia,
Aye.
Washburn,
Aye.
Doxy,
Nay.
DeGroot.
Aye. 5-2. Motion carries. So from here we go on to resolution 17-2024, which is 11508 Brown Road Comprehensive Plan Amendments, CPA 24-1.
That item is going to be deleted from the agenda. It'll be on the January 13th agenda.
Okay, so we are pulling this third item that has the public hearing attached to it. We'll take that up in January. Item D, discussion possible motion regarding resolution 26-2024, which is amending parks and recreation fees. Yeah, you want to make a motion, Rob?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was in my thought. Mr. President, I make a motion to approve resolution 26-2024, amending parks and recreation fee as presented.
Second.
Okay, this is something that we just took up at the COW meeting. Does anybody need any further info or comment on that? Okay. Then why don't we just do, well, we'll do a roll call vote.
Anastasio,
Aye.
Karas,
Aye.
Venturini,
Aye.
Bhatia,
Aye.
Washburn,
Aye.
Doxy,
Aye.
DeGroot.
Aye, motion carries. Item E, discussion possible motion regarding Resolution 27-2024, which is amending Resolution 36-2024, adopting the 2024 budget for Parks Fund to transfer $18,100 for campus park asphalt paving.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve Budget Resolution 27-2024 and amendment for the Parks,
Second.
amendment for the Parks Fund to transfer $18,100 for campus park asphalt paving.
Second.
Okay, that sounds like a good motion. Again, we just took this up at the Committee of the Whole. Anybody has anything further to say or needs any more information on the, this is more of a settlement than anything in order to get a bill paid. All right. Roll call, please.
Anastasio,
Aye.
Karas,
Aye.
Venturini,
Aye.
Bhatia,
Aye.
Washburn,
Aye.
Doxy,
Aye.
DeGroot.
Aye, motion carries. So let's jump down to some public works stuff. We've got a few of those to get through here. Discussion possible motion regarding Resolution 30-2024, resolution to accept public highway roadways.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve that resolution number 30-2024 to accept public highways and roadways as presented.
Second.
I hear a motion and a second. I seem to remember speaking about this too at a recent Committee of the Whole meeting.
This one was actually at Public Works.
Yeah, Public Works.
Okay, this came to us from Public Works. Tony, if you, yeah, just want to bring us up to date on which roads are being transferred.
Sure. So, again, this is a resolution we present typically at the end of every construction season. We try to capture all the roads that were built by private developers during the year, and all of these were inspected by village representatives to make sure they meet our specifications so they can now be formally accepted by the village, and we can take over ownership. They're primarily subdivision roads. The Pike River Crossing roads are in here, the Sorensen Creek subdivision, some of these Settlement at Hoods Creek additions are in here as well.
You know, I don't remember seeing this list before.
Me
Have
either.
we always done this as a,
It's typically done in December or January, once we know what we're gonna have done for the year, and then we'll accept them at the end of the year, and then we can, once we formally accepted them, we can then use them for all of our DOT reporting.
right, and get our transportation money and so forth?
Did you miss those meetings?
You know, I'm gonna go back and look, I am. But what I just wanna verify is this has nothing to do with the substantial completion that a typical developer would go through as they're looking to have their improvements accepted by the village so that they can move forward with building permits. This is just a DOT true-up of roadways, is the way I see it, so.
I don't think that's what Tony just said.
No, these are all, this is final this has nothing to do with ongoing development. This is final acceptance of roads that are complete and completely meet village standard and are ready to be taken over by us.
So that means they have their final pavings, they've been checked out by the engineering,
And their
engineering-
warranty's over, right?
Right.
And their warranty's over?
No, the warranty's not necessarily over. A lot of these were finished this year.
Okay. It's okay, I've seen it before, apparently.
Any other thoughts on this? Okay. So let's call a roll call vote on that, Resolution 30-2024.
Anastasio,
Aye.
Karas,
Aye.
Venturini,
Aye.
Bhatia,
Aye.
Washburn,
Aye.
Doxy,
Aye.
DeGroot.
Aye, motion carries. Item B, discussion possible motion regarding ordinance 24-2024, an ordinance creating section 78-1901, parent F of the municipal code of ordinances pertaining to weight limit exemptions.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 24-2024, creating section 78-191, parens F of the municipal code pertaining to weight limit exemptions as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
My voice was lulling.
Tony, do I go back to you on this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. And quickly, several times a year, we'll be contacted by companies that want to use village roads for oversized, overweight loads as part of their trip. Typically, these trips are heavily isolated on state and county roads, so they're always subject to those permitting requirements as well, but once in a while, they'll need to use our roads to get where they need to go. So what we think this does is gives us another layer of protection. It gives us a way to just kind of document that they're using the facility. It protects us from any damage they might do to the road, and then we can make sure they have all the other permits they need in place.
So do they have to post a bond for that?
Not necessarily, no.
Any other thoughts? So on that matter, 24-2024, roll call, please.
Anastasio?
Aye.
Karas?
Aye.
Venturini?
Aye.
Bhatia?
Aye.
Washburn?
Aye.
Doxy?
Aye.
DeGroot?
Aye, motion carries. Item C, discussion motion regarding ordinance 25-2024, an ordinance creating section 70-11 of the Municipal Code of Ordinances pertaining to street use permits.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 25-2024, creating section 70.11 of the Municipal Code of Ordinances pertaining to street use permits as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Byer?
Yes, so this is another permit we want to create so we can regulate the temporary use of our rights-of-way. This is primarily related to dumpsters, storage containers, large storage items in the right-of-way. And this permit would give us the ability to not only indemnify ourselves from liability, but make sure that the users have the proper safety practices and traffic control devices in place, and we can make sure they're not blocking hydrants or mailboxes or disrupting sight lines, that kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, and we discussed this at Committee of the Whole as well. Okay, we'll take a vote on ordinance 25-2024.
Anastasio?
Aye.
Karas?
Aye.
Venturini?
Aye.
Bhatia?
Aye.
Washburn?
Aye.
Doxy?
Aye.
DeGroot?
Aye, motion carries. Item D, discussion, possible motion regarding ordinance 26-2024, an ordinance amending Chapter 78 of the Municipal Code of Ordinances pertaining to parking on certain village roads.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 26-2024, amending Chapter 78 of the Municipal Code of Ordinances pertaining to parking on certain village roads as presented.
Second.
I hear a motion and a second. Mr. Byer?
Yeah, so quickly, this is related to Megan's Way, which is just northwest of us. That road is flanked by the Tivoli Green Phase 2 development, which just got done. With these developments, we typically see a lot of on-street parking due to building access issues or whatever it may be. This allows us to have that parking alternate so we can be more efficient with our snow plowing and street sweeping activities.
And we discussed that at Committee of the Whole as well. Sounds reasonable to us. Roll call vote.
Anastasio?
Aye.
Karas?
Aye.
Venturini?
Aye.
Bhatia?
Aye.
Washburn?
Aye.
Doxy?
Aye.
DeGroot?
Aye, motion carries. Item E, ordinance 27-2024, an ordinance amending Chapter 70 of the Municipal Code of Ordinances pertaining to maintenance of multi-use paths.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 27-2024, amending Chapter 70 of the Municipal Code of Ordinances pertaining to maintenance of multi-use paths.
Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Byer?
Yes, so when Mr. Schultz and the planning department revised the section 90 of the zoning code, there was a provision added for giving the developers an option to install a multi-use path in lieu of sidewalk. So as time has gone on, we've seen a few of these happen, and staff have been approached by developers asking, you know, who ultimately has maintenance responsibility for these paths. So that obviously spurred discussion between our departments, and what we came up with was to modify the two sidewalk maintenance ordinances to essentially include multi-use path language. So if a developer develops and chooses to put in a multi-use path, they have the same maintenance requirements they would have as if it were a sidewalk. So that's what we're attempting to accomplish here.
I think that we had some discussion about this too, and one of the things that was brought up is that the village has exempted itself from such maintenance.
There is an exemption in one of the ordinances, yes.
For the most part, winter plowing and in that sort of thing on paths that aren't being used in the winter.
Right.
Any other thoughts?
No.
Okay, roll call, please.
Anastasio,
Aye.
Karas,
Aye.
Venturini,
Aye.
Bhatia,
Aye.
Washburn,
Aye.
Doxy,
Aye.
DeGroot.
Aye, motion carries. Item F, discussion and possible motion on awarding the contract for Deerfield Drive stormwater relay.
Storm sewer. Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the award of contract for the 2025 Deerfield Drive Storm Sewer Relay Project to the low bidder Bradford Contractors LLC in the amount of $506,426.
Second.
Hear a motion and a second. Mr. Byer, did you have any specifics on that?
Yes, so this is a project to upsize a storm sewer in Deerfield Road and also extend the sewer up Chapel Lane. Near that intersection, there is a church on the west side of Chapel Lane it's been there for decades, whose runoff discharges under Chapel Lane and drains into several private properties and causes localized flooding during big events. So what we're attempting to do is capture that water, get it underground, and then upsize the pipe accordingly to handle that additional flow to where this discharges. We did previously bid this. Months ago, we received one bid that was over the engineer's estimate, so we kind of took a step back and decided let's build this in 2025 and give a much larger window to the contractors to make that happen. And that paid dividends. We ended up with 7 bids and some very favorable ones as well. So we recommend approval.
Well done.
What a difference a day makes, huh? To go from one to a handful, so.
Yeah, and you'll make some happy neighbors in the process.
Correct.
Much needed project, yes.
Yeah, any other thoughts? Okay, so regarding the contract, we can just do a aye and A on this one. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so that motion carries unanimously. So let's jump down to public safety. Now keep in mind, this is the last board meeting of the year, and so we're packing it in. Discussion possible motion regarding intergovernmental contract with Racine County for Metro Drug Unit participation.
I make a motion to approve an intergovernmental contract with Racine County for Metro Drug Unit participation.
Second.
I hear a motion and a second. Again, this is something that we discussed at a very recent committee of the whole meeting.
Does Nancy remember that?
In case anybody forgot, police chief is here. Just give us the highlights.
Sure. So the Racine County Sheriff's Office runs the Racine Metro Drug Task Force. Mount Pleasant is a part of that task force. It handles a variety of different drug investigations throughout the county. This just gets us re-upped on our MOU that we're currently operating under.
This is just continuing membership.
Right. And this one we can just do with a voice vote as well. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion, possible motion regarding Resolution 29-2024, which amends Resolution 36-2023, adopting the 2024 budget and authorizing acceptance of a grant from S.C. Johnson for the procurement of a Incident Command Crime Scene Response Vehicle.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve Budget Resolution 29-2024 to authorize acceptance of a grant from S.C. Johnson for the procurement of an Incident Command Crime Scene Response Vehicle.
Second.
So I hear a motion and a second. Again, this was, something that we discussed at a very recent committee of the whole meeting. Does anybody need any other weigh-in from Police Chief? Not gonna let you speak on this one. So, being that it's a resolution, we'll take a roll call vote.
Anastasio?
Aye.
Karas?
Aye.
Venturini?
Aye.
Bhatia?
Aye.
Washburn?
Aye.
Doxy?
Aye.
DeGroot?
Aye, motion carries.
Just a note, thank you, S.C. Johnson,
Yep.
and the chief for having that conversation with him, so.
Absolutely, yeah, well done. Discussion, possible motion regarding Resolution 31-2024, which amends the 2024 and authorizing the use of U.S. Department of Justice asset forfeiture funds to purchase protective equipment for the police department.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve Budget Resolution 31-2024, authorizing the use of a U.S. Government Department of Justice asset forfeiture funds to purchase protective equipment for the Mount Pleasant Police Department.
Second.
Motion and a second, heard. Again, recently discussed at the committee of the whole meeting. I think it's a very wise use of those funds. Anybody else had anything to add?
No, I'd just like to add, as you said, very wise use of the funds and anything to protect our men and women in blue.
Anything to protect the
Anything.
protectors, that's right. It's a resolution, so roll call, please.
Anastasio?
Aye.
Karas?
Aye.
Venturini?
Aye.
Bhatia?
Aye.
Washburn?
Aye.
Doxy?
Aye.
DeGroot?
Aye, motion carries. Any further thoughts as we ride into the Christmas season?
Mr. President, just quickly, congratulations to all the departments of the village who participated to make the Christmas tree lighting yesterday, and especially to those who ordered that weather of 50 degrees. This room was packed, next was packed. I saw Nancy here, many staff I don't see anyway, but it was very well done. And I think that's one of the days that the community really comes with the little kids to appreciate, what the village, their building, their staff, what they do for them. It was very well done.
It's turned into a wonderful little event with a lot of smiles.
It was nice. And I don't know if it's legal or not, but I like to wish everyone Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
I'll second that.
I'll second that, I'll second that, wish.
No, I was looking at Chris because, in many entities, they say don't bring religion.
Oh,
Anyway,
It's legal.
thank you.
Yeah, let's keep,
Christmas is
let's keep the
legal as
lawyers
far as
out of this one.
So you can't do that.
He's
How
an
about
attorney.
somebody throws
He's
out a
just
one
wait,
last-
wait,
Sure.
Mr. President, I do have
Oh,
one thing.
Okay.
I just wanted to let everybody know, as some of you may know, I've been working with Racine Habitat for Humanity, and our Restore, the Racine Restore, is going to be opening right after the first of the year. It's in the old Piggly Wiggly grocery store in West Racine at
Grove Avenue.
Grove Avenue and Washington. And it's really cool. It's all ready to go. They've got the shelving up. They're gonna start taking donations, so clean out, we gotta put all those new Christmas presents away, and, if you're cleaning out your furniture, but they're taking donations of all sorts of goods, building materials, furniture, et cetera, open after the first of the year. And all of the money from the Restore goes to supporting not only the staff at Habitat, but last year, The proceeds built 2 houses. We're hoping with the restore and the new location, it'll help us build 4.
Cool.
With
Looks great.
just the restore funds.
It
That's
looks
just
great.
the restore funds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I took a tour of the building a couple of months ago. It's a beautiful facility, very nicely done.
Yeah, I saw some pictures recently, it looked really good.
yeah, so everyone come, just spread the word. That's how we're gonna build and create workforce housing in our area. We have the Mead Street House, which is in Mount Pleasant, that is due to be, given over to its new owners this coming Friday. There'll be a blessing of the home. So it fills a big need, and, we're hoping through the restore to be able to expand the number of houses we can build every year.
As long as you have the floor, why not last motion?
From there, I will move to adjourn. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
I hear a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Merry Christmas.